All right, we'll reconvene into open session, and I'll seek a motion to approve what was discussed in closed session.
So move.
Second.
A motion and a second discussion. Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 All those opposed? Motion carried. Okay, moving on to business session. First item is report from student representatives, so introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Taylin and I'm a sophomore.
And I'm Evelyn and I'm also a sophomore.
To start, our band students are having an eventful month. On January 20th, 5 high school band students and 8 high school choir students attended the annual All-Star Honors Band at Wild Rose. They were nominated and then selected to perform with the best students from over 17 schools.
On February 10th, 3 8th grade students were nominated and then selected to perform at the Wisconsin Valley Honors Band in Wausau. They joined over 10 schools to perform with the best 8th graders in the area.
Upcoming on February 24th, 7th through 12th grade band and choir will be performing in over 60 events in solo and ensemble at Tri-County. Over half of those events are competing for a spot to perform at the state level in May.
For sports, our high school and middle school girls basketball team are approaching the end of their seasons. The high school girls won their last game against Marion and will play Pittsville later this week. The boys basketball team is currently 14-8. They will play through the rest of February.
Outside of sports, high schoolers in National Honor Society recently worked with first graders at the elementary school to create valentines for local veterans and senior citizens. Our math league is also currently in 5th place in our conference, and they had their last meet on January 31st at the UWSP campus.
Lastly, this year we have another sizable forensics team. Students competing this year are currently preparing and practicing pieces for their first meet, which will take place on February 22nd.
Thanks for listening. We hope you have a great night.
Thank you, girls.
Thank you.
Thank you, girls. Well done.
All right. President's report is next. All board members are in attendance. Next item is the reading of DPI proclamations. Tonight we have 2 of them. First one is National School Counseling Week. Whereas school counselors facilitate and support the academic, social, emotional, and career development and success of students in schools throughout Wisconsin. And whereas school counselors help all students explore their strengths and interests, overcome challenges and barriers, and access resources and support to reach their full potential. And whereas school counselors collaborate with students, parents, and school staff to help students identify and pursue areas of interest and set realistic goals that further their educational, personal, and social growth. Whereas school counselors play an integral role in responding to and advocating for the mental health needs of students and promoting social, emotional, and mental well-being in schools. And whereas comprehensive school counseling programs are an essential part of the educational environment to enable all students to succeed inside and outside of the school setting. And school counselors seek to identify and utilize community resources that can enhance and complement these programs. And whereas this week the state of Wisconsin joins students, parents, school, and district staff in celebrating the unique and significant role that school counselors play in encouraging and empowering students in districts across the state. Therefore, I, Jill Underly, State Superintendent of Public Instruction, declare February 5th through the 9th, 2024 as National School Counseling Week. And the next proclamation is Adult Crossing Guard Recognition Week. Whereas Wisconsin's adult school crossing guards provide an invaluable service in helping to ensure the safe passage of our youngest, most vulnerable pedestrians, children walking between home and school. And whereas adult school crossing guards serve with a dedication that overcomes the rigors of split shifts, heavy traffic, and they stand strong, enduring in the face of sweltering heat, bitter cold, blowing snow, and heavy rainfall. And whereas adult school crossing guards have for more than 5 decades served Wisconsin communities to make them more secure, providing a safe path to learning for children. And whereas adult school crossing guards are often the first to greet our students and the last to say goodnight. They do this all with the mission focused on helping students safely navigate city streets, county roads, and highways. And whereas adult school crossing guards help reinforce safety in the minds of young people, they highlight the importance of traffic hazard identification and safe street crossing behavior. And therefore be it resolved that I, Jill Underly, State Superintendent of Public Instruction, declare the week of February 19th through the 23rd, 2024, Adult School Crossing Guard Recognition Week, a time to recognize and thank the many adult school crossing guards whose commitment makes a difference in the lives of children in Wisconsin schools. So we have some excellent crossing guard people here and excellent counselors. That's for sure.
Absolutely.
We
They,
thank them.
they will be recognized by the district as well. I'll be giving them a token of our appreciation and visiting with them next week.
Great, thank you.
Mhm.
All right, our next board meeting is March 13th on a Wednesday. So our next item is administrative reports, elementary principal report, Principal Bina.
Okay, good evening, everyone. The elementary school character trait for February is very basic, but maybe the most important of all, honesty. Honesty is discussed each day during our morning announcements and in our daily classroom morning meetings. Elementary students who exemplify honesty amongst their peers will be nominated by their teachers and recognized school-wide at the end of the month. Yesterday, we had an outstanding performance of the Opera for the Young here in the Ed Hoyer Elementary Gym. The Opera for the Young performed Beauty and the Beast, and I was told by our staff that this was a new group of performers. They were very energetic, they were very engaging with our audience. We had about 30 students working with them that had practiced the music in advance. In Beauty and the Beast, they had a number of characters dressed up like birds. So our students looked like parrots with colorful wings and flying around and singing, and you can imagine our audience was laughing and everyone was having a great time. So Beauty and the Beast was a great performance. We had approximately 30 parents here or so it was excellent. The cost for bringing Opera for the Young here was split 50-50 by Port Edwards Education Foundation, and the other half was sponsored by People. So they were thanked by the Opera for the Young before and after the performance publicly, and I've reached out to both groups as well, thanking them. So great performance. Speaking of People, in the past month, our parent organization has led 2 enjoyable family activities. We had family bingo night on Friday, January 19th. As soon as we got back from the state education convention, I dropped my bags off and walked in and called bingo that night. We had a packed gym. It was a lot of fun. Everyone brought a candy bar to donate, and then the winners could come up and claim a candy bar. So it's just great family time, showing them our buildings, introducing them to staff. It's just a great way to get families into our buildings. And last Thursday night, right here where we're sitting, we had the screen down and we watched the Disney film Migration. So we had the popcorn machine going, and this whole area was just packed. Students and their families were on bean bags and sleeping bags and in their pajamas, and we had a great family movie night. So just great ways to get our families into the building here. On January 30th, I attended the first of 3 cybersecurity trainings, which are being led by CISA 5. I worked with our IT staff, Corey Colts and Heath Stoltz. The training helps us to identify weak areas in our technology infrastructure. Everything from logging in to opening emails to communicating to IT vendors we work with to IT staff we bring with. We discuss everything. As many areas about technology as possible, identify the weak areas, and how do we best address them. So we have actually federal level IT government workers. We had a panel there who were there to answer questions and give their input during the tabletop activities. So I've done one of the 3, and I'm gonna go to one in March and go to one in April and bring that information back. So very valuable. Finally, for the elementary, March 4th through the 8th is Read Across America Week. Dress-up days and guest readers are planned for each day on the 4th through the 8th, and our culminating activity on Friday, members of the staff will be performing the Lorax for the student body, March 4th through the 8th. Thank you.
All right. Next up,
Yes.
any questions for Jim? All right, middle school, high school principal report.
Okay. First, I'd just like to address the, last Friday, we had a professional development day. Our teachers in the middle school, high school were prepped for being proctors for testing. Our forward testing is on March 20th, April 9th, 11th, and 16th, so that consists of most of our middle school core teachers. And our AC testing is on March 19th. So a big shout out to Ms. Moore and Ms. Ashenbrenner who do all the prep work and behind the scenes work for that. We also were engaged in curriculum development. This has come around a couple times, right? This year, I want to thank Mrs. Kathy Hintz-Stebbins we've been working with. She's phenomenal, great leader. She's very professional and knowledgeable. So we had a core group of teachers, I don't know if we told you, that initially started with her, and now we check in with our teachers. There was some time given. They met with her initially, we came up with a Port Edwards mapping, and they're really making progress now. They picked a class or two and they're working with that, and then she checks it. So we gave them time provided, and now the middle and high school teachers, it's a little bit different for the elementary, because the third grade teacher teaches everything, right? So now we're still giving time in April and May. Our plan is, we've got deadlines, and they're kind of inching towards scope and sequence. They want to meet with the person below them and in front of them. So we're making headway on that, and I want to thank Kathy, and the teachers have the utmost respect for her. She was like a perfect pick for this. So I'm happy to have her on board. The girls didn't tell you that second trimester we have they talked about the band and choir kids that are doing so great, but February 27th we're having our choir concert, Monday, February 27th, and then the next Monday, March 4th, is the band concert. So that's trimester 2. Forensics, high numbers this year. Their first meet is the 22nd, and it's at Lincoln High School. We have 20 students right now practicing with Tammy Griffith as our advisor. They're judged a couple times that night. They're judged by other teachers that have that certification, and then if they get their 25 points, they go on. So if they go on district would be March 9th, and then on to state if they qualify. And since I've been principal, we've always had a band full goal, and they've qualified. So good luck to them. Natasha Grayway might be coming back to you, but I just want to share, remember she talked about our art group. This is kind of exciting. They're going on March 1st to Point. It is 11 students are competing. They are competing in painting, ceramics, art history, digital photography, fiber arts, mixed media, and digital art. So a number of different medias. And I asked, how does this go, or what do they do? Because I wasn't sure, like, do they go there and take their crayons and markers and everything? And actually, we had a lengthy talk, so I want to share. They do a long-term project, which they know what they need to work on, and they work on here. They're given a prompt and the media and the requirements. So when they get there, then they're going to share their long-term project that they were working on. But there's also a short-term project, and it's on site, and they're put in a room and they're given the criteria for that. Also, while they're doing that, there's in another room, like they rotate these kids, there's a quiz bowl. And at that time, they get points, and they're asked about artists and art movements and shows and all of that. So it sounds like a full packed day. First and second place trophies overall, and if they go on, just kind of like on solo ensemble, she said, they get first, second, or third place, and then state is scheduled for March 25th. So I said to her, start small, right? Like, we've never done this, and this is a big experience, so I don't know that we'll have state people, but it'll be fun. They're all excited, and there's 11 of them, so.
And that's like individual competition? That's
no.
a team, or is it?
It's called the Visual Arts Classic.
Yeah.
I don't know.
VAC.
I don't know if it's,
I think they do it as a team.
I think so too. I
Yeah.
think we have, with 11, I think we have a couple teams, I think.
Yeah.
Okay, so
That's a
maybe
good
teams
question.
of 5 or 6 or something like that.
But I mean, if they keep them busy, like this is well planned out, it sounds
Yeah.
like, so.
It's at UWSP. I went on their website yesterday to take a look, and it's a big program. It's been going on for decades. I was told we did it here years ago in Port, and Natasha said she's bringing it back.
And besides that, we've got the art show too. I forgot to mention that.
You have postcards on your
Yes.
desk there. Yep.
So, I mean, she's kind of got a lot going on, but.
Yes.
She's a busy lady.
So, it's all good. Any questions?
Perfect.
Thank you.
Donna.
Thank you. Next is district administrator report. Jim.
Okay, thank you. The 24-25 district budget creation timeline has been set by our admin team. Budget request sheets will be sent to faculty members and department heads the week of February 26th. And those budget request sheets will be due back to building principals for review by March 22nd. Department budget request forms will be due to the business office then from building principals by April 17th. On February 21st, Lisa and I will be meeting with our representatives from USI Insurance to preview and discuss insurance rates for next year. Second Friday of January student count. It was stable for the school district, a very, very small increase. Last January, the second Friday count was 421. January of 2024, we were up to 425. So from 421 to 425. The school district right now is deeply involved. We're putting in a lot of time with CISA 5 to complete our ESEA DPI monitoring. We were randomly chosen. School districts are randomly chosen. It's our turn in the cycle. ESEA stands for Elementary and Secondary Education Act. We have to provide documentation about our policies regarding communication to families in a vast amount of areas. Some of these include professional certification of our staff, standardized testing, English language learners. We have to prove that we are communicating effectively with certain things in each of our letters, and the things are on our website. We just have to show all this documentation. CISA 5, again, is working with me and others on our staff to make sure that we are completing all that information. As Donna mentioned, last Friday was Professional Development Day. She talked in some detail about curriculum writing. It's happening K-12, and like Donna mentioned, we're trying to get one class finished this school year, and then next year we're going to start looking at scope and sequence so we can align everything K-12, and that's when we're really going to see if we're missing any gaps in our state standards. So that work is moving forward. That was primarily in the morning. In the afternoon, we had all K-12 faculty here in this room, and we had meetings about our curriculum goals, which was led by Kathy. And then we had a guest speaker from Boston on our Zoom meeting who introduced the 911 Enforce app. And that is a safety app, which I believe I spoke about last fall. This was our first opportunity to unroll it to our staff. And that app, what it does is it cuts down the amount of time if there is a real critical emergency by which emergency responders can get here. If there's a critical emergency, we call 911. A dispatch person picks it up and they say, "What is your emergency?" And then they have to call someone. And data has shown that response time is critical. So by having the app on your phone, which most young people are more and more familiar with apps, it goes right to EMS. It'll go right to our emergency responders. And then everyone that is connected to that is on the same platform, whether it's Wood County and the village, our staff, and they can communicate in real time. If there were an intruder, they can say, let's say Teacher Smith or Teacher Jones can say, they ran out my room. And everyone who's barricaded in their room can see that on their phone, and they'll know threat levels and who is where and what's going on, so that there's real communication, and that's going to decrease our danger levels, that improve communication. So we did that with our faculty. We're going to have all of our employees on board with it as well. Mr. Duncan.
What's the security of the app?
It is being worked on with our IT staff.
Okay, what I'm asking though is it potentially possible that some bad actor could obtain the app, sign in, and monitor exactly what the communications are?
I don't think anything is impossible, but that would take quite a bit of doing, I would imagine.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would take quite a bit of
I mean,
planning, I would guess.
Cause you would, like Danny said, sign into an account that's associated with our district.
It's individually on each staff member's phones. And
Right.
because they're not district issued phones, it's voluntary.
Okay,
So not everyone is gonna choose to do it.
but do they actually sign into, to get to,
An account,
yeah,
Like,
to
I
get
think once,
notifications
I think
from, say, whatever school district?
I think the only communication is between them, other app holders in our district, and the emergency response.
But that's what I'm saying, the app is specific to this district, is it?
Our account will be, Yes.
That's what I mean.
yeah.
But is there going to be some process or procedure establishing to ensure that, for example, if some staff member who has the app on their phone has their phone stolen, that
That's disabled.
yeah, that we can get in there, or that
Just
there's a
as
sign-in
If they lose their
requirement?
fob or their keys, there will be a
Because-
procedure, yes.
Yeah, because the other is, there is software available that if you're on a public Wi-Fi,
Mhm.
guest in this room, they can plant, and then anytime you sign in with a password, it will
Track what
track
they're
their
doing.
password and put it onto a bad actor's computer.
Yes, and I don't know that they can steal the app off their phone. But again, it's being used in dozens and dozens of public school districts, much larger than ours, and it's been used for a few years. I would venture to say, I haven't asked that specific question, but I would venture to say that question's been asked and vetted. But we
I
will
would
certainly do
like a
so.
little more information if you could, because unfortunately, I'm too very well versed on this situation.
Okay.
And just a very, I'm just start worrying about stuff like this anymore. So,
We can never be too safe with technology. I would agree. Certainly we'll look into that. Finally, on my district administrator's report, you may have seen my email I sent out today. I sent it out to all staff and a number of area stakeholders. Purpose of that email was to inform everyone about the communication we're doing with the community about the upcoming referendum. The list of informational meetings was shared electronically. There's a paper copy on each of your desks as well. As you're leaving tonight, you can see an informational placard. It's roughly 3 feet by 2 feet. It's in our window of our elementary office for all visitors to see. There's an identical one in the high school office. We have flyers, large flyers professionally made on the table. Feel free to take them. We've created a list of area businesses, civic organizations, gas stations, restaurants, you name it. They will be going out this week. We're going to be meeting with them. We are doing the small flyers that are over there as well. They are going home in all the backpacks of all of our students this Friday. And we have our yard signs, which are in the box over there. So please take one for yourself. If you have neighbors, if you have friends that, you just want to do them a favor and pick them up for them, please take as many as you would like. So we are in full swing. We are definitely in full swing with communication. So I guess any questions, since we're talking referendum, questions, concerns, thoughts?
We talked about door to door.
Mhm. We will be planning that. We're planning that. Yep, door to door, door hangers, that type of thing.
It's a little early for that.
It
Right.
is.
Right.
5 years ago that happened,
Yes.
and the staff were majorly involved in that.
Mhm.
Hopefully, many of them will partake.
Yeah, we've discussed that in our admin meeting, that as we get up to that, when we get to that point, we will be doing that as well.
Good.
Absolutely.
Some people just don't get it until you.
Look them in the
Ring the
eye
doorbell.
at their doorstep.
Linda
Yeah.
Johnson used to call it pressing the flesh.
Mhm.
Gotta come up and greet them.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
All right,
All right,
thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
sure. Next item is the annual audit report from Clifton Larson Allen LLP.
Welcome.
Good evening.
Good evening.
You recognize Amber Daniels?
Yes.
Yes. So she's here to share her annual report.
Our annual report. Yep, I'm gonna go through a couple pages in the bound document and then just let me know if you have questions. I'm gonna start kind of where I usually start, just past the table of contents on the independent auditor's report. The format and layout hasn't changed on that letter this year, so it's pretty much, it's the same that you'll see. There's no new audit standards that went into effect for these financial statements. There's new auditing standards that go into effect for the upcoming audit, so basically the 23-24 school year. But for 22-23, the audit standards themselves stayed the same. So it starts out with our audit opinions, and so in our opinion, based on the testing we did, the financial statements included in this document present fairly the financial position of the district as of June 30th, which is again what the district strives for. We test on a sample basis. We do a risk assessment process. We talk to Jim, we talk to Lisa, we talk to various, or sometimes Callie and different things to understand controls, understand what went on during the year. We read minutes and all kinds of stuff like that, and from there determine where do we need to spend the majority of our testing. And from there we pick a sample of expenditures. So obviously if we were here to look at every single transaction, we'd probably still be doing it, kind of thing. So, we'll test 25 payroll, or we'll test 25 disbursements or 25 receipts, varying depending on what we're actually looking at. Sometimes it might be less, sometimes it might be more. And as a result of those samples of tests, we determined that there wasn't anything materially misstated that wasn't ultimately corrected, and that's how we came up with the audit opinion that everything presented fairly. And we follow, this year, or for 23-24, the district did not have to have a single audit. It didn't spend more than $750,000 of the ESSER funding and all the other federal funding. So that's why some of the wording in here might be a little different. It went back to when you, the other wording, which is a DPI audit only type wording, for our testing. So you will see a few less paragraphs in a couple places just because of that. And so we follow regular audit standards, governmental auditing standards, and then DPI has an audit manual that they have asked us to look at various items on. And we did not have any compliance findings in regards to that. We had our usual findings, segregation of duties, preparation of the report, the ones we've talked about every year that I've ever been coming here. But from a compliance standpoint, when we tested the different state programs, we didn't have any compliance issues from that. Any questions on the opinion letter? Otherwise, I'll move into the financial numbers. Okay, seeing none, then if you want to move to page 8. So this is the balance sheet as of June 30th, 2023 for all your funds. You'll see that there's it'll start in the middle with the general fund. That's obviously your main fund. For financial statement purposes, this is Fund 10 and 27 together. So your general fund plus your special ed fund, all combined in here. So you had total assets of $2.5 million, the majority in cash and taxes receivable. Then you had total liabilities of $304,000. The biggest amount of that was $200,000. That was a transfer to your long-term capital improvement trust fund, Fund 46, that happened in July. Under DPI rules, you can record that back, and so then that transfer happened then. And so then the net difference of both your liabilities and assets is your fund balance. So at the year end, total fund balance was $2.2 million. And there's a couple different categories in here. So non-spendable fund balance of $86,000. That's when you have prepaid health insurance or prepaid property insurance or certain things that you've prepaid like in May and June, but it's for next school year. Those type items. And basically, you've already spent the fund balance, but because they apply for next year, that's why it gets shown on that line. Then you had restricted fund balance of $33,000. During this year, that ended up being the unspent Get Kids Ahead grant funding from DPI, because they're basically telling you have to spend it on that initiative. And then there was also some common school library funds that weren't spent. And so that amount gets shown there because DPI is also telling you you can always spend those funds on the various library activities and library equipment. The remaining balance is unassigned. So that is your amount that hasn't necessarily been set aside either by you as a board or management of the district or any of these other third parties to say, you gotta spend it on this or you gotta spend it on that. So this can be spent on anything. This can be spent on unanticipated expenditures that came up and now need to be covered in this next year's budget, or it can just be used for cash flow purposes. which then means that you wouldn't necessarily have to short-term borrow. At times, the district has had to take draws on the line of credit and done other short-term borrowing. But when your fund balance is high enough, you can kind of ease off when you have those dips in the funding that comes in. And so you have just under $2.1 million in that unassigned fund balance at the end of the year. The district has set a policy that they want that amount, that unassigned amount, to be 10% of the current year expenditures or more. And this amount is actually at 27% of those current year expenditures. So at the end of the year, you're sitting pretty well, and that's why you didn't have to take draws on your line of credit or do anything at that point. Any questions on the general fund balance sheet? Then moving on to page 10, this is your income statement. So this is how did you get to that ending fund balance of $2.2 million. So there in the middle, there again is your general fund. You had $8.4 million roughly of total revenues, the majority in your state sources and property taxes, and then interdistrict sources. And that interdistrict is your open enrollment revenue from DPI. And that, but so these are the main sources that you would expect to see the majority of your revenues being listed under. Then you had total expenditures of $7.7 million. Majority again in instruction and support services. Your support services ended up being under budget by about $500,000. So then that's what helps contribute to your fund balance growing in 22-23 or 23-24, excuse me. So then what you did then is you transferred that $200,000 to Fund 46 to help fund for long-term capital improvements that way. So overall, your fund balance grew $466,000 in 23-24 or 22-23. Yeah. And again, when you look, there's a budget to actual page back on 43. You can kind of see the different areas of the expenditures and how they did the budget. Your revenues came in pretty darn close to budget. It was just your expenditures were way under budget, and that's what contributed to the growth in the fund balance. And again, that allows you to, again, not have to short-term borrow sometimes or be able to fund different projects a little easier during the year. Any questions on that? With that, then the last thing, I guess, did you guys have want me to go more in depth on those findings that we've talked about in the past, or do you have any questions on those items? That works. It was a pretty, the audit went pretty smooth. We had some recommendations just to continue working on those reconciliations. When there's variances, when you're reconciling, make the adjustments needed to get those variances gone, so then you have more updated information. But overall, that was our biggest comment and recommendation. And this next year, you have a year off on new new accounting standards. There'll be another one in that'll hit you guys in the 24-25 school year. Compensated absences need to be reviewed. So accrued vacation and sick leave payouts, the accounting rules are changing with that in a couple of years. But other than that, everything went pretty smooth. And I guess, do you guys have any other questions for me?
Fund balance is healthy. That's a good thing.
Fund balance is healthy. It allows that flexibility, because obviously now, as you are well aware, with interest rates going up, if you had to take out short-term debt,
Right.
you'd be having a higher impact on that. And it just does allow some flexibility in case a project gets delayed.
Right,
And I think that's one thing that kind of contributed to that.
Contributed to having the fund balance we did this last year, and so that was good news. And knowing where we came in with our budget this year, knew that we were gonna be deficit spending, at least it felt like, okay, but we knew we put that cushion back into fund balance.
What
so-
percentage was our fund balance?
It was at 27.
27%.
So it's back up to,
Anything
it's
over
much better
15
than
to
what
20
it,
is good.
what it was, it had dropped there for a
Right.
while there, so it's nice to be able.
Yeah, and I, like Jim just said, anything above 15 to 20, that's usually what the industry benchmark is. You guys have just chosen long run to keep it, to set a lower rate, but that's what we're usually looking for, somewhere in that 15 to 20% range. Just because you never know how some of the fluctuations happen. You might have a repair project that then you need a little bit more cash on to be paying for stuff, and it just fluctuates. And just obviously even just the budget uncertainty that was going forward with the school, with the state, not knowing where some of those numbers were coming from, to know where it falls. I think the other thing was there was a little bit less spent on the federal ESSER money, so
Yep.
that also contributed to a little bit of fund balance, and also to why you didn't have the single audit for that year. I don't remember exactly how much you guys have left, but that you still might trip into another single audit
That's
for this year. So, until those funds are gone, that's always a possibility.
Yeah.
So, and at that point, then our testing gets a little bit more detailed, because we have to test, when a single audit happens, we have to test 40% of what you spent on federal funds. And then in addition, we have to test 40% of what you spent on state special projects as well. So
just
it adds a
to
little bit more.
comment on that. So, year before, when we did have the single audit, we had spent a majority of our ESSER, funds on projects with the chem lab and all that. So it was quite a learning experience for me,
Federal
especially
rules.
federal rules with all that. But this year, we are trying to get the rest spent, and we are using it on,
Salary.
we're using it on
Salary
personnel
benefits.
costs. So therefore, it's not as,
Cumbersome.
not as.
Yeah, and obviously even that, some of that funding has to be spent by like September
Right, so
30th,
we're trying
so
to get that.
to try and get it spent and used in the way to help the
Yeah,
district meet all the rules that were
Right.
under there and
Right,
address everything that was set up in those rules. But otherwise, if anybody has questions throughout the year, please feel free to reach out to me. Lisa's got my contact information. My contact information is also on the CLA website, so if you needed it, just let me know.
thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Amber.
Thank you.
Okay. Questions or comments from people in attendance? Anyone sign up?
No, you don't.
All right,
Sign up to talk.
move on to the consent agenda. Seek a motion to approve the minutes of the past meeting of January 10th.
So moved.
Second.
And a motion and a second.
Kathy and Carrie.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Motion carried. Next is consider approval of financial reports. Any gifts?
Well, Jim had mentioned that, PEEF and PEPO had given, the donations for the Opera for the Young, so it was 50 cents. Yep, 50 cents, 50% for both, it was $400 that they each donated for that, so that was great. And that's what the cards are for. And then I need to report two budget revisions, and they were both due to our PEEF donations. The first revision was for the donation of the piano and the risers. And then the other one is for all of the approved 2024 PEEF grants. So that's what that was for, so.
Okay, with that, seek a motion to approve financial reports.
So move.
Second.
Motion and a second, discussion? Hearing none, roll call please.
Leo,
Aye.
Carrie, aye. Dana,
Aye.
John,
Aye,
Kathy.
Aye.
motion carried. No unfinished business tonight. Next item is set the annual reimbursement rates for per diem meals and mileage.
Yeah, that Lisa.
Yeah,
That was-
we saw it.
Move to, yeah,
Yeah, that was in our packet.
second.
Been a motion and a second, any discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carried. Next item is consider approval of academic and career plan and education for employment plan.
In January, Ms. Moore presented information about the ACP work being done in the middle and high school. She has requested that we do a formal approval of the attachment that's provided in the packet, which outlines her presentation.
Move.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any more discussion?
It's comprehensive. I mean, like,
It is.
every school has to have it,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
Right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carried. Next item, consider request for post-employment benefits, Tina McLaughlin.
Motion is requested to approve the attachment as presented.
I move. Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? We thank her for her many years of service and wish her well in retirement.
Absolutely.
Alright, next item, we consider approval of 24-25 district calendar.
The draft was sent to you. The draft was created with input from our calendar committee. Very, very similar process to last school year. We had, I believe we had 9 members on the committee. It was about 5 and 5 or 5 and 4 from each building. Our calendar looks remarkably similar to next year's recommended calendar, looks remarkably similar to this year's. The only difference is, one of the major differences, instead of a 4-day weekend for families on February 7th through the 10th, we would be having school on February 7th. That's a Friday, but then PD day on February 10th. Otherwise, it looks extremely similar. 175 school days with students. We have 7 professional development days, 3 record-keeping days, 3 professional paid holidays, and 1 parent-teacher conference for a total of 189 days, which is what we have on this year's calendar. A motion to approve is requested.
So, second.
Got a motion and a second.
I have
Any
a
other
couple of
discussion?
questions.
Yeah.
The school calendar doesn't necessarily include the high school graduation date, correct?
If it's not listed, I don't think, but I know Mrs. Neve and I, in our conversation, we said we're gonna roll it over to the identical day.
Graduation.
Is it on there? May 31st.
So, yeah,
It is listed.
Oh, I'm sorry, it is in the corner, I looked
She
at the
listed
grid. Have you had any conversation with other districts in terms of where this sits regarding their dates?
No.
I know in the past, we've had people concerned that they had grandkids in different districts, and everybody somehow manages to put graduation on the identical day at the identical time, and somebody gets left out. I know this, was it this past year, we did it on a Saturday instead of a Sunday?
I've seen it.
I think.
I came from a district where we had it on a Friday night and people complained about that.
Well, I mean, you're never gonna hit it
Right.
100%. I just wondered if you had had any occasion to talk to the superintendents of the other districts and see what they were planning.
It hasn't been brought up as an agenda item. I think most districts typically, once they settle on their date, they like to stay with that for continuity. Donna, have you heard, I'm gonna defer to our high school principal, have you heard complaints? Have you heard?
When we had it on Sunday, we shared it with either Nakusa or they were the same times, but now that we moved it to Saturday last year, I didn't hear anything.
Okay,
I mean, I thought the idea of a Saturday graduation was a good plan, because it typically, apparently in most of the local areas, it's Sunday, that Sunday of Memorial Day.
Yeah,
But,
it was.
I just asked, I didn't know.
Right.
Like you say, it doesn't make a lot of difference, but,
Lincoln's is Sunday.
okay. All right, that's fine.
I don't know if Nakusa.
Ours is Saturday.
yes.
Saturday. Okay, there is a motion and a second,
Yes.
so if there's any other questions? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Motion is approved. Next item, the first reading of Neola policy updates.
I met with our Neola representative this past week. All of the summary of each of the policies was sent to our board members. And I'm seeking a motion to accept the first reading of policy updates, volume 33-1.
So moved. Second.
Motion and a second, any more discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Opportunity for individual board member comment. Kathy?
I would just like to thank the 2 school counselors for all they do for the school district. Very important job, and I think we've got 2 good ones, and also thanking the crossing guards. And I would like to thank the school district for allowing me to attend the school board convention along with some fellow board members. It was very good, and I came home with my head swimming with ideas of things that I should be doing. So I did start in preschool story time down at El Cafe, and I've done
great.
2 Saturdays.
And how's
I had-
that going?
Well, I had 14 children that showed up the first time. The room was full because they all had to have a parent or 2. Some of them had a parent and a mom and a dad and a grandma, so there were a lot of adults there. And then I did one the second after the Saturday after that, and then only 4 children came. So you never know what you're going to get. But I've told them I'll do it the first Saturday of the month.
Great.
So
Excellent.
All right. Tina?
I didn't have anything until I just sat here and I got a news flash. Apparently, Children's Mercy Hospital in Kansas City, Missouri, announced that they're treating 12 patients of the shooting at the Super Bowl rally for the Chiefs. 11 of the children are children. 22 victims so far. I'm to a point where I don't know what more to say anymore. I don't understand the level of violence and hate that exists. This should be something that, you're supposed to remember on a positive note. People who,
Absolutely.
I mean, this is
Celebration.
football.
It's a celebration.
It's football. It's not anything, that should be life-threatening. And yet, I think we've become so hostile in this country as to people, as to how they think, how they believe, what they want to do. It's just, I'm just appalled, and I just hold your family close and pray that when they're not with you, that they're safe and that you think as well as possible about how you can help try to reduce the hostility and the violence in this country. So that's all I have, I guess.
Okay. Carrie?
Good to see the kids here again, telling us a little bit about everything that's going on. It was very interesting on the art competition, so that's kind of cool. Kind of goes along with the forensics, which of course I'm a huge fan of. And anything that the kids can get out there and get in front of people and get outside their comfort zone is all going to benefit them so much in the years to come.
Today at the principals meeting, I found out that not everyone does this. And when we start talking about it,
Yeah.
all the principals are going back and talking about bringing students. They said
Oh,
it'll take
students.
longer. When principals said, I'm always worried at what they'll say, but for the most part, we are fortunate. And so that's like a goal of like the principals, they were like, we're gonna go back and do this.
Right.
About half do it.
I mean, so since you brought that up, I mean, so the kids that come, I mean, do most of them, I mean, how
we have
do you
student council
decide-
members.
Their
Okay,
student
so-
council.
We have student council members because they should be your leaders.
And then,
A couple other schools rotate like freshmen, sophomores, juniors, seniors, and they work with a teacher.
so student council is basically, everybody goes at some point, they're
They're supposed to, yeah.
supposed to.
Mr. Vandehay, the advisor,
So they may
rotates them,
kind of get appointed
yeah.
particular
Yeah.
weeks or maybe.
Some of them are more afraid, obviously. Then they get here and they realize it's okay.
Right. Well, even that's excellent for them to.
Absolutely.
In front of, an older crowd.
Mm-hmm.
Watch it.
Hey,
Except for you, Carrie.
they're high schoolers, we're all older.
We're all old. Yeah,
I'm
That's
saying
right.
is,
That's right.
there was no malice in that attempt.
Water was due for some of us.
So call a spade a spade.
But, yeah, no, it's always excellent. And then lastly, just a huge thank you to Tina for her, I believe it was 34 years
It
that
is.
she served in the school district, and, that's very
Yes.
excellent. It's just, congratulations to Tina, and hopefully she has I know she's got all kinds of things that she's already ready to do, so good luck.
Alright.
So, that's all I got.
Bill?
Just as a
Oh, yeah.
follow-up point to Carrie's remarks, I asked the kids tonight while we were waiting to open the meeting, I said, I've been curious, how do you decide who comes to the board meetings each month? Does somebody draw straws? Is it the last person who shows up gets assigned? I mean, what, the person who's late for work gets this, I didn't know. And they explained, as you illustrated, that it rotates through the groups and the reps all take a turn. I said, well, you're doing fine, and you aren't gonna, break out in a rash or grow an extra leg or something while you're here. It'll all be good. And, I don't think we have ever had anyone from the student reporters. I cannot remember an occasion when any of them actually stayed. They bolt like rabbits. So it's like,
You got homework to do.
are we done? Gone. So, I'd also like to congratulate Tina on her retirement and thank her for her long tenure with the district and the students that she has influenced and passed through her classes. And finally, I'd like to put in a plug for another unrelated issue that I'm aware of, that I guess Jim has shared with everybody. You may have seen these posters around town, one way or the other. Water quality has been a very serious issue in this part of the state for many years. On March 18th at McMillan Library, there's going to be a seminar run by the Citizens Water Group in Wood County. It'll be chaired by Lance Primmel, who's the county board chair, and it'll have a panel of people with wide experience in this area, including Dr. George Kraft, who's a professor emeritus of water resources at UWSP, and Katie Rosenberg, the mayor of Wausau, which you may have noticed in the news back over Christmas. Wausau is one of the very few communities in the country that is totally taking advantage of the infrastructure bill to completely eliminate lead water lines. They're gonna be one of the first cities in the United States to have that gone, I think by the end of next year. And Ms. Rosenberg is gonna be available to answer questions from municipal people in terms of, well, how did you get so lucky? How did you find this to be the case? And then following, there'll be a Q&A with the League of Women Voters moderating it. So if anybody listening or anybody in the district or any of you guys have people who are concerned about the quality of their drinking water, whether they have municipal or private wells, this might be something you might want to think about. March 18th, 6 p.m. at McMillan.
Thank you. And I'd just like to thank the district for allowing me to go to the state convention again. Besides all the information that we get from the breakout sessions, we always have excellent keynote speakers. And I find that one of the most helpful things for me, because it always rejuvenates your passion for education, and you see everyone else there enjoying it as well, and you know that what you're doing is worthwhile.
Like board members who have served for 50 years.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
A great
so
saying
it
that,
rejuvenates.
a great saying that I heard down there that I don't want to forget is you can't light someone's flame unless yours is already lit. And I
Yeah.
feel like we can kind of relight that flame down there.
Yep,
Yeah.
exactly, yeah. Yeah, that's all I had, so next meeting is March 13th. We wanna set April's. April would be
Would be the 10th.
April 10th. Sound good for everybody?
I may or may not be here.
All right, with that, I'll call for adjournment.
Moved.
Second. Or Kathy.
We're adjourned.
Please help yourself to flyers, posters, and yard signs.
And
Okay.
treats.
And
Oh.
brownies.
Treats.
Thank you, Kathy.
Treats and help yourself.
I cannot have one.
Or Dana. Do you wanna take one home, take one home to Chris?
I am sorry I didn't get that.
If I dropped
About
Chris a
finance,
treat
right?
right now,
Oh, yes, and that even.
I would end
Yeah,
up with
no,
my
I
hand
haven't,
cut
it's
off.
just been a bit,
Oh.
He's trying to lose weight and
And just-
I definitely am trying to lose weight.
Well, thank you, Kathy. These look
I'm down
Is there any
fantastic.
almost 20
leftover
pounds
you can
since I
take
started
right now?
this.
I will.
because,
I will.
After we
Yeah.
took the elevator in a church,
Yeah, my son-in-law.
everything is.
no,
Like
thank you
60.
very much, so.
I'm ready to go.
Everything's
Teresa, take a
everything's
treat.
been changed
Oh,
around
I
to
Eat
me.
on the way home.
No, thank you, I've had
There was
enough
a-
treats today.
I'll take
That's
yours
what
then.
Jim
I'll take
said.
yours.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
Oh,
had a
good,
lot.
thank you. Stop and Stop.
Walked in this